Hello and welcome to Allie doesn't know anything about history, but she's learning it as we go and telling you all about it with Miss Allie and
Anderson
and
Lucy
Lucy and there's Lincoln back there, but he doesn't want to join. So let's start with the origins. How did Rome get founded? You might remember something from our timeline song. Andy, how does it go?
Romulus and Remus.
Good job. Rome was founded by these mythological brothers called Romulus and Remus. And Andy, where did they come from?
They came from somewhere over here, and then their aunt made them throw them into a basket and down the river, and then they got raised by wolves.
Yeah, weird story. It's just a myth, probably not true, but that's what the Romans...
And then Romulus killed...
Remus.
Yes.
And so that's why Rome is called Romulus. Again, myth, probably didn't happen, but that is the origin story of Rome. So Rome starts out as this teeny tiny village founded by Romulus. So legend has it that 754 BC, Rome is founded, and it's a village. So on your first map, if you want to, you can draw a little dot around Rome in one color, and then over here you can kind of do your key and write down that Rome was a village in 754 BC. Now, as Rome grew and grew and grew, eventually it eventually became a city. So we'll do city in blue. We don't have an exact, date for when that happened, but as it grew into a city, it started to become a monarchy. And so the monarchy is a term that is used when an area is ruled by kings. So it transitioned from a city to a whole territory, and it was ruled by, I think it's 6 kings. And so after each king died or was killed, a new king rose up and ruled the area. Eventually, the last king died, and Rome became what's called the Roman Republic. And so I'll do the Roman Republic in orange. So here's kind of a picture of the Roman Republic, and let me put this here. You can consider the Roman Republic as happening between 510 BC and about 264 BC. So republic means that instead of a king governing everything, Rome had a group of people that would make rules that are in the best interest of the people.
And by the way, the last king, I think, was, I forgot the name.
Okay. So Rome formed a senate, and a senate was a group of people that were well off. They were wealthy, and they had a lot of land, and they had a lot of slaves, and they made the decisions for the republic. And so Rome actually transitioned to a republic and had kind of 3 categories of people. The first were called the patricians. And the patricians
had lots of money.
Yes, they had tons of money, and they were kind of like the fancy people. They're the politicians. They were people with the bigger houses and the territories. And so the patricians, or I should say the Senate, was formed only of patricians. And then underneath that, we had the plebeians. And plebeians are the ordinary working people. They were poor. They did not have their own land. They worked for the patricians. They were the metalsmiths and the bakers and the farmers. Then on the last rung,
slaves.
You have slaves. And these people owned nothing and were owned by, they didn't own anything, but they were owned by the patricians. So patricians rule everything. Interesting thing about the Republic. The Republic had consuls. Consuls were the leaders over the Senate, and there were 2 consuls. Basically, they were kind of like side-by-side presidents. 2 presidents, if you will, that ruled next to each other in the Senate. The consuls, told the Senate what they wanted, and the Senate also told the consuls what they were and weren't allowed to do. And so they kind of worked together, kind of similar to our...
kind of like friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they were really friends. A lot of them didn't like each other.
Kind of.
Yeah.
There was a third group of people that also had power called the generals. And when Rome became a republic in 510 BC, they decided they were going to start to conquer all of Italy. And as they went and fought these wars, the generals would have temporary power. And so when they were in the middle of a war, the general had power and the consuls stepped down. So they weren't making decisions anymore. It was the generals making decisions.
Yep.
And then when the war was over, the general would step down and allow the consuls to keep ruling. So we have a period of the Roman Republic where they are conquering land. And the crazy part is, after they conquered land, they gave land to the soldiers. The land they conquered, they gave to the soldiers. But all the soldiers wanted land, right? So they kept having to conquer more and more and more land in order to have enough land to give the soldiers. It was kind of this crazy cycle. So, eventually, Rome conquered this area called Sicily. It's right at the end of the boot of Italy. And
Italy is
Carthage is actually right way down here. You can't even see it on the map, but Carthage is down here. So, remember how Carthage is kicked by Italy's boot? Well,
Actually,
Rome...
I think this is the boot and not that.
Yeah, this is the boot. But Rome conquered Sicily, and they were friends with the Italians, which were in this general area as well. And so the Romans and Italians were friends. However, let's go to our next slide. Where's our next slide? Let me see if I can get our next slide here. Aha! Here's our next slide. Can I erase this whole thing? Guys, that's a lot to erase. Let's pause while I erase. So, we have Rome right here. Carthage. Remember Carthage being kicked by Italy's boot? Here's Carthage. I'm going to change it to green. Carthage is actually let's go to your next map, the one that says Punic Wars. So go ahead and circle Carthage, and if you want to, you can take like a green marker or something
Or this map.
and kind of color these areas where Carthage is. Carthage was located in here, but remember we also have the Italians there. Let's do the Italians maybe in blue. So Italians are here too. And then we know that Rome joined in with them here. So we got a lot of people that are not happy with each other here. Turns out that Carthage was attacking Italy. Italy was attacking Carthage. And Rome was friends with Italy. So guess what you think Rome did?
Conquer Carthage.
Yeah, they decided to join the fight too. So they start fighting over this area. And we get to what's called the
Punic Wars.
Punic Wars.
Dun, dun, dun,
Punic
dun.
Wars.
Punic Wars.
And the Punic Wars are between 264 BC and 241 BC.
Wow,
That's
that lasted-
actually that's the first Punic War. The second Punic War actually goes until 202 BC. So we're talking 60 years of war. Can you imagine 60 years of war? That's a
Yeah.
lot of war.
And
Let's
a lot of
move to
planning.
our next picture, which is going to kind of show us how the battles fought over time. And if you want to
you're
draw
in a
this on your
different
map, you can, or you can just follow along with us.
Yep.
So,
Mommy, you went to a different map.
we're still on the Punic Wars map. So, Rome in red, Carthage in blue, Syracuse is the space that Italy had. So Rome and Italy fight Carthage. And they decide, we're going to defend Sicily. And they built a fleet. Rome did not have a fleet, like ships in the water. So they built a bunch of ships. And they started fighting the Carthaginians, right? Which are found in Carthage. So they start fighting the Carthaginians, but it's kind of a stalemate. No one's really winning. They just keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting. So Carthage has this great idea. And they said, oh, wait, hold on. That was the First Punic War. It ended up in a stalemate, okay? Carthage, Rome, no one's really winning. So they basically just stop fighting. Then Carthage starts another war called the Second Punic Wars. And Carthage was really smart. And they were like, hey, what if we distract Rome and we go doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop, and let's attack Rome from the north and they won't even see it coming. So in 218 BC, we see the Second Punic War. It goes 218 to 202 BC. And there's a general, and his name is Hannibal.
Hannibal?
Hannibal, a famous Carthaginian general. He decides to take troops all through Hispania. You remember where Hispania is? All through Gaul. And right here in between Gaul and Italy is a big old mountain range, which on your map says
The Alps.
the Alps. The Alps, huge, high mountain range. So all of the soldiers, Hannibal was like, how are we going to get our soldiers over this huge mountain range? And do you know what he uses to get them over the mountains?
Planes.
No, planes are not invented. Elephants! Yes!
Tanks.
Elephants! Hannibal,
Elephants.
I wonder if I could draw an elephant. Hannibal gets huge elephants, and they march over the Alps with war elephants. And all their soldiers are on their elephants. So they start coming down here. What do you think Rome does when they see all these elephants?
Ha!
Ha? No. They're scared.
What?
They're very scared. They're like, ah! Probably a lot of them have never even seen an elephant. And they're scared and they fall back like this. Carthage keeps coming forward and eventually they try to get to Rome, but Romans defeat them. So Carthage loses. And right as Rome was trying to fight back, Romans were trying to fight back at Rome, Rome decides to do its own sneak attack. And guess what they did?
They came to Carthage.
They came to Carthage, and Carthage was not expecting it. They just sent all their troops to go over the Alps. And so this is how, let me erase this so you can see the next map. This is how Rome conquered Carthage.
Dun,
Bum,
dun,
ba, ba, bum.
dun. Ba-bum,
Bum,
ba-bum.
ba, ba, bum. Here's a good picture. I should have shown this earlier. Here's the Carthaginians. They come here. They go over the Alps. They see all the circles here. That's them fighting in Rome. They fight. And Romans defeat them. And then sneaky defeat Carthage down here. And now Rome has all of this. Bum, ba-da-dum.
Ba-ba-dum.
So, this is an interesting part in history. We are still the Roman Republic right now. We're in the Roman Republic. But since we had a lot of wars happening, guess who was taking control? Was it the consuls in the Senate?
General.
It was the generals. And the generals were actually saying, I like all this power. This power is pretty cool. And one general in specific, his name was Caesar.
Caesar Augustus.
So,
Caesar
not
Augustus.
Caesar Augustus, not Caesar Augustus. This is Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was an amazing general, and he loved being in power. And there's a long story here, but basically Julius Caesar tried to get all of the Romans to be excited about him, and then he tricked the Senate, and he announced himself a perpetual dictator.
Perpetual dictator.